Detectives aren't supposed to get bloody knuckles. But I've done a lot of things I wasn't supposed to do. I lived through it all. Beatdowns, the backstabbing, disrespect most people wouldn't see in 10 lifetimes. And I never lost a fight. Until now. Hey man, what are you doing? Hey! Move away from the body now!
What the fuck is this?
Hey, did you hear me? My God. Hey, no, 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 no! Oh, shit. Oh, shit, that's me. No, no. Get back here! I said, get back here!
Murdered Soul Suspect is an adventure mystery stealth video game developed by Airtight Games and published in 2014 by Square Enix for Microsoft Windows, PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One. Murdered Soul Suspect takes place in a fictionalized version of Salem. Played in a third-person view, the player navigates the protagonist, Ronan, around town. There are multiple areas in Salem to explore, such as a church, an apartment building, and a graveyard. The player completes levels in order to progress further into the game. There are hundreds of collectibles in the game, including ghost girl messages and various different types of scraps of paper, which contain information about Ronan's life. Since the character is a ghost, he has a number of ghostly abilities, such as teleportation and possession. Each area has clues to collect to progress through the level of the story. The clues are found in a way similar to L.A. Noire's investigation sequences. In present-day Salem, a serial killer known as the Bell Killer begins murdering seemingly unconnected victims. Police detective Ronan O'Connor is able to track down the Bell Killer, but is thrown out of a window and shot to death during a fight. He returns in the form of a ghost, and learns that in order to reach the afterlife and meet his wife Julia, he must first discover the identity of his killer. With the help of Abigail, the ghost of a Puritan child, Ronan is able to use his ghostly abilities to return to the fight scene, and discovers that a medium named Joy witnessed the fight, and is now hiding in a church. I won't spoil any more of the plot here. There's a lot of twists and turns. How Ronan and Joy interact is a large part of the narrative, and how Ronan, now dead, handles his death and the truths he discovers through Abigail and through tracking the Bell Killer murder play into the story as a whole. Just remember that this is Salem we're talking about here, and they have a very long history with witchcraft. The game came about because Square Enix wished to appeal more towards the Western market. Yosuke Shiokawa, a creative director at Square Enix, came up with the idea of a game where the player was a ghost, and pitched it to the development team at Airtight Games. Airtight then came up with various concepts surrounding the ghost idea, some of which were almost superhero stories, according to Matt Bruner, Airtight's chief creative director. In an interview with IGN, Shiokawa noted that he was inspired from watching the movie Die Hard and asked himself, what if John McClane died? What if John McClane was killed? Is he going to give up? He reasoned that he wouldn't, and that even as a ghost, he's going to try and save the people in Nakatomi Plaza, including his wife, which led to the initial concept of the game. The team had trouble at first integrating Western and Eastern philosophies regarding ghosts. About the process, Bruner later stated, "There are a lot of assumptions that we weren't even aware of, that we were making on both sides, about how to fictionally support who you are as a character in this world. It took us, I would say, a good 1.5 years of constant back and forth to get that sense of, what? Really? Oh, so that's what you're going to be talking about." Murdered Soul Suspect received an average reception upon release. Most criticisms centered around poor combat, short length, lack of replay value, and lack of difficulty. However, many did praise the game's story, and with hundreds of collectibles, for those completionists it can be a tricky game to track down every single page of information. Of additional note are the collectibles which unlock cool ghost stories. No, really. There are 8 ghost stories in all, and each of them are done in an Outer Limits style voiceover. It's actually a cool thing to kind of have as a collectible. The other collectibles in the game are information on the Bell Killer, Ronan, his wife Julia, or other persons or places of interest in Salem. They can be a nightmare to hunt for. I've never found them all, for instance, though I have gotten all of the ghost stories, and provide some interesting backstory on Ronan's past with his fanatical criminal family, Julia's time before her death, and the hundreds of years of back history of the Bell Killer and his victims. There are a few interesting side cases that Ronan can complete, but overall they don't really add much to the story, though they do make Salem seem more like a real town rather than the empty shell the game presents us with. There are some great concepts in Murdered Soul Suspect, some interesting narratives and some cool characters, but sadly the game feels incomplete somehow. I have my own reservations about how the game resolved, and I think just a bit more time could have been spent on the climax and discovery of who the Bell Killer is currently and how the last few people holding the mantle could have been handled, but overall I think the game isn't quite as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Sure, the fight system is a little clunky, but Ronan's ghost abilities aren't built around fighting. It's directly stated that each ghost has a different ability. Ronan's is possession and teleportation, nothing more and nothing less. You can find copies of the game on PlayStation 3, PlayStation 4, Xbox 360, and Xbox One, as well as on Windows. Copies come pretty cheap, and the game can be beaten in about 10 or so hours, though leisurely players may take longer and still not be able to find all of the collectibles. I, for one, would actually love to see Square experiment with something like this in the future, though with the average reviews the game received, that may never happen. But if you can find a copy of the game for cheap, I suggest you give it a try. You may find yourself unable to put the game down, like myself and many other reviewers did. If you liked this video, please feel free to like, subscribe, click the bell button for whenever I do any more videos, and remember, the world is square.